This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Hello, welcome to episode 178 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts. Thank you for joining us today. My guest on the show today is Jen Taylor, and I know you're going to love this episode. This is a continuation of some episodes that I recorded in either late 2019 or early 2020, but do not let those dates freak you out as you listen to this. The beautiful thing about the She Creates Business podcast is that I always record evergreen topics. That's the way I design the show, and everything still makes sense even years later. So it has not been years later, I guess, depending on when you listen to this. I mean, as I record it, it's only still 2020, but maybe you're listening in 2022. That would be amazing. You're going to get a ton out of this episode. Jen is here to talk to us about business growth. You know, there's a time to grow your business, and there's actually a time to stay status quo. You need to go for growth if that's what you're looking for, but you also need to be leery of it at times and make smart strategic decisions. And Jen is here to talk to us about how to do that. I want to tell you a little bit about her. Owner and founder of Tailored Events, Jennifer Taylor carries over 15 years of wedding planning experience and has earned a wealth of knowledge throughout her career. While running her own business, she's had the pleasure of working alongside highly innovative and talented creatives throughout the industry and beyond. She noticed that many creatives are predominantly right-brained, wildly imaginative and expressive, but missing the necessary structure to create logical systems in their companies. In launching Jen Taylor Consulting, she made it her mission to help creatives build streamlined workflows, processes, and procedures so they can grow their business and spend their time on what they love most, their craft, their family, and their life. Jen's systematic knowledge of the inner workings of creative businesses has brought her to national stages and major industry publications. She's spoken at conferences like the Special Event, NACE Experience, and ELEA, as well as chapter-based events for NACE, the Wedding Network, ABC, and Western Washington University. Her expertise has also graced the pages of Wedding Wire, EDU, Special Events, Cater Source, Book More Brides, Honeybook, and Wedding Planner magazine. Outside of work, you can typically find her traveling throughout the West Coast or in Maui, the two markets her company serves for destination events. She also has a penchant for cooking and can often be found sipping on a fresh glass of wine. Doesn't she sound just the best? And she really is. I had the pleasure of speaking with her for this half hour. She's just wonderful. So without further ado, let's get on this with the show. Let's talk to Jen Taylor from Jen Taylor Consulting about how to know when you're ready to grow your wedding business. Here we go. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so appreciative to be here.
I am very appreciative that you are here. It's my absolute pleasure to have you. I was telling everybody, or Jen offline, you guys, that I love it when I bring on wedding professionals who have so much industry experience. This is perfect timing as we record this. It's December 2019 because I just got done having my podcast survey for this year done. And quite a few people said that they would like to hear from people who've been in the industry for 10 plus years, people who've been in the industry since the last recession, because it's important. It's important information, especially as we come up on another presidential election. Like everybody's just thinking of all the things. So this is like superior timing. And I'm really looking forward to talking about having strategic growth in our wedding business, when to do it, when to be leery of it. But Jen, before we get there, I read your professional bio there at the top of the show, but I would love for you in your own words to tell everyone who you are and what you do in the industry.
I'm Jen Taylor. I own a Tailored Events Group, which is my wedding and event planning business, and that has been in existence since the end of 2004, beginning of 2005. I started Jen Taylor Consulting because I wanted to slowly find a way to get out of doing weddings every weekend, and so Jen Taylor Consulting started in late 2017 into 2018.
Now, when you started Taylor Events, was it just you, or did you have people working for you that first year?
It was just me for a very, very, very long time.
Did you ever hire day of assistants?
No. In fact, so I started my company and then about a year later went to go work as a contractor for another planner, as not her assistant, but as another planner, because she was looking to grow her team. And then, I'm just like, you know what? I really want to get back to myself. I had some things I wanted to work on to, education wise, for the industry and all that. So I went back and started Tailored Events again. Of course, right when the recession hit, when you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
And I did not have an assistant up until, I don't know, maybe 2009. Because I just thought I could do everything myself. And I come back from these weddings and, God, why am I so cranky? And why am I so just like irritable? And then I'm like, you know why? Because I am doing everything. And I'm like, and why don't you have an assistant? And I'm like, this is a whole conversation with myself. I don't know. Why don't you go find one? Okay. What do? I don't know. So,
oh my God, I feel like I just had that conversation with myself yesterday.
See, it's the same conversation. And so I then just found, and luckily, the universe kind of knows. Then I started getting these, hey, I'm going to school at so-and-so community college, and I'm doing their hospitality, and I need intern, credits. And I'm like, okay, great. You're my intern. Great. So all of a sudden I had all these interns coming in. I'm like, this is fabulous.
Great, you're on. Get in here.
I'm like, great. Here. I'm like, I love these three girls. They were probably my favorite. I asked them to move a table, a 6-foot table it was at the Seattle Aquarium. Move it from this part of the aquarium it took 3 of them to move a table. I'm like, girls, in the off season, if you want to do this for a living, you need to get on some weights. You need to start doing some weight training because you're going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting. And they just laughed at me.
You were like, secretly, they don't know I'm serious.
I know. I'm like, no, I'm serious, girls. If you want to do this, you got to learn how to lift up a plastic table by yourself.
Literally. So was that a conscious decision to stay, working by yourself for almost 5 years?
No.
Or was it just like, I was too busy, you were just too busy and too busy working in the business to even look up and say, yeah, I should hire someone?
Yeah. Pretty much. I just didn't even think about it. It wasn't really a thing. I was like, but then I started getting irritable and just started getting cranky. And I'm like, sure. I shouldn't be this cranky at a wedding. I should be really like pleasant to the clients and things like that, totally. And so, yeah, at that point, I'm like, okay, you need to find somebody. So, and I just started, as I said, with interns. It wasn't, there wasn't a hiring plan. There wasn't anything like I have now, or had when I was fully invested in Tailored Events Group. Mm-hmm. It was more of just see who came in the summer, and it'd be perfect timing when they would reach out, or I would reach out to the school saying, hey, do you have anybody coming down the pike? I've got some weddings coming up. And, so it was just like this it was just a great flow for that.
It was just gradual and it worked itself out.
It was just gradual. Yeah.
Yeah. Did that give you the ability to free up some of your weekends or just free up some of your workload, but you were still going to every wedding?
Just freeing up my workload. Yes. I was the primary planner for all my weddings. The part of growing the team itself really didn't happen until 14, 15, mm-hmm. 14. I was teaching at that point, wedding and event planning, and there was a student.
Where were you teaching that at?
I was teaching through Longevity, which is a nationwide company. I was teaching at Everett Community College at the time, and I had great students. I mean, I still keep in touch with them. 2 of them are still wedding planners. One is completely killing it, and so they would become my assistants during the time of when I was teaching. And then one's like, okay, I want to start my business. I want to consult with you. Okay. So we started consulting, finally she's like, you know what, can I just come and work for you? And I'm like, sure.
Yeah. And how did you bring her on at that time?
all of my employees were considered part-time seasonal mm-hmm. with the state because I didn't have anything really full time for them to do, but they were going to be heavy and hot and heavy during the summer. So she came on, And then this woman met me at a networking event. She worked for another planner on the other side of the state, over on the eastern side, top planner over there. I knew who she was. And she's like, you know what? I really want to get back in the wedding industry. I'm like, great, let's talk. So we talked and I said, great, come on. So what I did is I just, they became my team, and that's how I started my team. So how do you know it's the right time to do that?
Yeah.
Sometimes you go in it purposefully, like you're turning away work. You need to make more time for yourself or your family. You're wanting to take the next step into a particular segment of the market. Those are the things like most people think about. I'm like, sure, come on, let's go. But it came at the time that I wanted to really look at certain segments of the market where I became a planner for a particular venue. Wasn't exclusive, but it was enough that package was just us. And the venue loved it, because they're like, the venue, you're here all the time anyway. This would be great. It gives them a little more exclusivity. And I'm like, great. So that part of the segment, when I say wanting to take the next step and expand into a segment of the market, that was a segment I wanted to get into, because then I could back away. Then it goes back to, you can take more time for yourself and your family. That was a 1 and 2 of, how do you know when it's the right time?
So you getting this deal with this venue, and then these couple of girls who are women who wanted to work with you, that all kind of just holistically happened around the same time. And you were like, well, I have this great deal, and now I have people who want to work for me as well. This seems like a good time.
Yes. And then all of a sudden 3 other girls showed up, ladies. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
Great. So
I want to shine a light on something you said really quickly. You mentioned that all of these women were, and this is for people who maybe haven't hired yet. So I want you to explain this difference and why it matters. But you told me that they were part-time contractors according to the state. So tell us what that means in Washington and why that's important.
So in any state, you need to look and see. Most of the time, a contractor you cannot tell a contractor what to do and where to go. That is now, if you tell somebody what to do and where to go, that's an employee. So in the state of Washington, I had to say, because I'm going to tell them what to do and I'm going to tell them where to go. Mm-hmm. So they're now an employee.
Okay.
But they're not going to be a full-time employee. I put them down as part-time seasonal, because in the summer they were going to be busier than they would be any other time. So like their hours fluctuate. Their hours were based on what they were getting. So how I paid my employees was they got a piece of the pie. There was no hourly rate. There was no nothing. If we got weddings and they did the weddings, they got a piece of that contract, that event.
So you paid them a specific percentage of each event.
Yes. And I got paid except if, for the most part, most of my weddings paid me on a monthly basis. Those in-house weddings were paid on a schedule. So they knew, like, you're going to get, so they were all on board with that. Okay. So it really depends what that on looks how like. You want to run it.
Okay. Tell us what that looks like in your business from like a practical perspective. Were your girls, or were the people who worked for you getting like a paycheck once a month or every other week, or during the summer when they were at least part-time, or just after every event they worked?
They got a paycheck every month, depending on what was coming in if they had a wedding that was outside of the in-house, mm-hmm. and that they would get paid on a monthly basis, because they would be paying me on a monthly basis. Right. And then for in-house weddings, this segment of the market I wanted to grow into, they would then get what they would have, the winery would have a schedule. So I would know when they were going to be paying. So I would then pay them when that payment came in from the venue.
Oh, this is awesome. How was your business structured before, when it was just you? And did you have to transition like your business structure? So for instance, my business is an LLC right now, but I think that when we come to hire people, it might be in our benefit to transition to an S Corp. I'm curious how that worked for you. I
don't know about an S Corp. I thought I was going to be an S Corp at one point, and I was, But then and then things changed, and I'm like, I shouldn't really be an S corp. I've been an LLC no matter what. If you start business, you need to be an LLC.
Yeah.
No, do not become a sole proprietor. They can come after you personally. That's why you have an LLC. But an S corp, I don't know. And so I got out of an S corp just because it ends up just being me. If I had kept the team and kept going, then it would have been beneficial.
Yeah. Okay. So, and what we mean by that, you guys, is just the way your business is structured, like how the state looks at your business. So whether you're an LLC or an S corp, sole proprietor, and what Jen means by that, don't be a sole proprietor, is because what you're doing is you're mixing up kind of your personal assets with your business. And when you become an LLC, it separates your personal assets from your business assets. And then people can't come after your personal assets. Heaven forbid, like if it ever came to that, if somebody was suing you or what have you. But that's all like very, worst case scenario. But yes, register your business for sure. So you mentioned something that I'm interested in. You still have tailored events, but is it back to just you?
It is. It is
Okay.
back to just
Tell
me.
me that.
I had some serious life changes come up. Yeah. And so last year, 2018, I decided the team was slowly going away. They were becoming moms. They were moving across country, across the state, things like that. So the team was slightly, and people are like, well, do you want to grow a new team? And and I'm like, I can, but I need to figure out what I need to do for myself first. Mm-hmm. So I'm just doing destination wedding and event planning throughout the Pacific Northwest and Maui. And if I can, and I have enough friends in the industry that I can pick up an assistant to go to Maui anytime. They're like, yeah, you call me when you want to go to Maui. I'm like, I will call you.
That's not a hard sell.
It's not a hard sell. But even the Pacific Northwest, I have friends out in Oregon. I've got, there's industry friends. You make industry friends that are all wedding and event planners. And they're like, you know what, things are kind of slow. I'll come and do it. I'll come and assist you. And it's great because you have somebody who is a friend who also knows the industry, who knows what they're doing. And you're going like, okay, go do this. And you don't have to watch them. You can just go do this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a symbiotic relationship. And it's such a weight off your shoulders as the lead planner, because they know exactly what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, since starting Jen Taylor Consulting, you have really developed a reputation for helping businesses get their systems in order, their processes in order, really be the machine behind all the pretty things that happen on the day of a wedding, and also helping people understand when they should take steps for growth. Mm-hmm. I would love for you, if you could take us through let's maybe do an example process or something. What is it that you're helping your clients with, or that you see people struggling with, and how can they improve that?
So if you're wanting to grow, first look at, if you're wanting to grow your team, why is that? Again, goes back to, are you turning away work? Are you wanting to spend more time with your with your self time and time with your family? Or wanting to take a next step into a particular segment of the market. So once you figure that out, you're like, okay, now I know why I want to grow. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have any of those whys, you're like, well, then maybe, that's the thing that says, okay, maybe I'm not ready to be, maybe that's the first stopping point. No, I don't need to grow at this time. I'm good with where I'm at. I'm fine. But this is the time, if you say no, this is the time to go back and say, okay, do I have my process in place to be able to say in 6 months, a year, 3 months, whatever, yes, I can grow. So what do you need to do that? You need to have your core values. Who are you as a business? Like I sat down with my team and we created our process and procedures books. And one of the first things we did is talk about, what's the mission statement of the company? So you should have that already. And then what are your core values? What do you want as your business? And those things become part of how you write your job description, how you do your interview questions, how do you do business? Do you have a process and procedures book? If you don't, this is the great time to do it, to write down, this is what I do, this is how I do it, and this is why I do it. So if you're saying no to yourself, no, I'm not growing, but you still need to have this ready to go, because when it's a yes, you need to have that ready and have those things ready to go.
Mm-hmm. And then you don't have to backtrack and say, okay, I'm in this position where we have to grow. We have to bring on people because we have so much business. And then you don't have to backtrack and create all of these processes and procedures. And, oh gosh, what are our core values? I don't know. We just need to hire 4 people.
Yes, because because it just goes back, if you hire the right people, then they're going to be with you. And it gets back to, they become part of your brand, and you're able to kind of step away and let the company run itself. Let your employees be the brand.
Mm-hmm. So after we determine why we want to grow, let's talk to the person who knows they're ready. They want to do it. They want to grow. Yep. After we determine why, what's our why for growth? And then we've determined our core values. Maybe we already had those, but now we have gone through and we have created that processes and procedures book. Maybe we already have something. What's the next step?
Let people know that you're hiring. Let people know in the industry. They might have somebody, they may know somebody. This person that came to me at a networking event, she had asked around, because she was working at a big nonprofit, but she wasn't happy. So she was networking. We were both networking kind of in the same circles, but not necessarily, like connecting. But she was asking all the different people, who do I talk to? Who, and they all kept saying my name. So she came to an event that I was at, and she stuck by me. So let people know you're looking for somebody. They might have somebody in mind for you. Put it on, that's the first thing, is advertise it, whether it's letting people know within the industry you're looking, letting your friends know, putting it out on Facebook, whatever it is, this is who I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Do you mentioned something, and I would find this so challenging. So, and I know I will once we're ready to bring on people, is writing the job description.
Yes.
That feels very daunting to me personally. Do you have any tips on that?
It really is, you look at, okay, what are they doing? What's their job purpose? Mm-hmm. For mine is the senior planner works as a member of Tailored Events Group team while servicing his or her own clients. So that's the first line. And then you talk about what else they're doing. Then you look at what are their duties and responsibilities. So what are they going to be doing 90% of the time? You start listing that out.
Okay.
And it can be, I've got 5 big bullet points with bullet points underneath. Then what are their qualifications? For a senior planner, I want somebody who is a little more seasoned in the industry. So, right. So what does those qualifications look like? For me, the first one was 4 years experience in the event industry, 2 years experience in wedding planning. So has an entrepreneurial mindset, things like that. And then we had working conditions and physical requirements. So, be able to handle independent tasks, travel as need, flexible schedule, be able to lift 50 pounds, work long days, work outside in the weather, tolerate heat and cold, and then the pay range. Those are kind of the things that you want to think of.
I really like how detailed the actual, the physicality of being a wedding professional, what that actually looks like, because it's so true. You can't, I feel like sometimes when people want to get in the industry, especially as a planner, and maybe you disagree because you're a planner, so you've hired planners, but it's like, I want to be a wedding planner because I love weddings and I love love, yes, and it's so beautiful. And you're like, can you lift 50 pounds? But that's the question you really want to know, because it's a hard job.
It's a hard job. And, especially if you want to be a wedding planner and you want to own your own business, you're first and foremost a business owner. Mm-hmm. So you need to know, or you need to learn how to run a business and not just plan weddings.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it. That's your first job.
Do you feel like when you're talking to your clients and you're getting them set up with processes and systems, is it mostly, well, maybe not mostly, but do you find that your clients have been in business for a while and that this is kind of and they just haven't focused on this side of their business before? Or do you
Yes.
find that they are, okay. I was wondering if that, or you found that they were new.
No, I'm working with somebody now who is not in the wedding industry at all. She is a mover. She owns a moving company for seniors, and everything's in her head.
Yes.
And she is wanting to sell the company at some point, and she wants or take a step back and have somebody. I'm like, you need to take it out of your head and put it on paper.
And that's what you're helping her do.
And it's the hardest thing.
Yeah. Okay, that brings up a really huge point. So this woman wants to sell her business someday. So I bet that just perked up someone's ears. Like, I'm interested in selling my business someday. I bet you have a few tips for people who are like, like this woman who it's all in her head, but someday she wants to sell this business. She's building an asset. What are some tips for how they can start to make those steps so that they are not like, 20 years down the road or 10 years down the road? Oh my gosh, now I'm going to try to extricate all of this so that I can finally sell my planning company.
It's, write down your daily tasks, write down your weekly tasks, write down your monthly tasks, your quarterly tasks, and your yearly tasks. I've got a small business checklist of just things to do on a daily, weekly, quarterly, monthly, and yearly basis. And those are the things you need to write about and have it there, because whether you're yourself or you're bringing on a team or you're looking to sell, those are all things that you need a procedure book for, because it is the foundation of your business. It goes back to, how do you grow a team? You need to have this book ready to go. How do you, start really growing the team? You have to have this book ready to go, because you then become, whether it's just you're growing your team, can be you're hiring a bookkeeper or you're hiring somebody to do your social media, whatever it is. They're going to have to know parts of this book. Like, how do you do your bookkeeping? How do you do your social media? How do you onboard a client? Right now I'm reviewing how I onboard a client and trying to see if what I'm using, how does that look? Mm-hmm. How does that look like? And how can I automate that more?
Are you finding that the businesses that you're working with what are you teaching them in terms of automation? What are kind of some of your tips around that?
It's really about, the first things you want to automate are having them find a way to talk to you. Okay. Like, get whether it's Calendly, Acuity, scheduling, time trade, whatever it is. That's the first thing you should be doing, is making sure that gets automated, because then you're not like, well, how about this date? Well, how about this date? Well, I can't do that. How about this time? It's like, Here's my calendar, go. And the next thing is your social media. For me, I'm one, this is always been a big debate since, because I was around before social media, which is really, really just mind-boggling.
It's fine. I was too.
I'm like, I didn't have any of this when I first started, but I like to batch a lot of my jobs, a lot of my social media. So especially for tailored events at one point, I would batch a month. Ooh. And then go in as I needed during that each week. But, have a schedule, have a way to go find your content, that you're not always just like, oh, am I going to post today? Well, you have a content calendar you have a calendar, but you also have a content library, Excel spreadsheet, whatever you want to call it, that has like, here's some links that I like, here's some quotes, here's some things that are going on, here's my favorite places to look for content, things like that. So you're not always recreating the wheel every single time. And then finding I use Buffer as my scheduling. So finding something that you can go and schedule. So there was times I spent one day doing my content gathering. What do I want to talk about? And then the next day I would do all the pretty stuff in Canva and get it all ready to go and then schedule it.
Oh, yes. I really appreciate how you said you should keep these things in a strategic place that you know they're going to be, so you know where to go and look for content or inspiration, so that you don't have to spend so much time just getting prepared to do the thing. You can just dive right in.
Yeah. I mean, the Facebook save function is great, because then I see something, I'm like, oh, I like that, I'm going to save it. So then I'm just looking, I'm like, okay, what did I save? And now that they have categories, I can even sort them that way. It's, it all goes back to how you prepare yourself and prepare that, because then that prepares the team. So if I want to pass on social media to I bring on a team member that's total social media, I can turn to them and say, here you go. Here's your portion of the book. I delegate this now to you. This is how we do business of social media.
So taking that time before, preparing before you're ready, even taking the time now will save you and the person you're bringing onto your team so much time and kind of headache down the road.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some final tips you have for us as we wrap up here for knowing when to grow? Any strategies and for systems and processes that we haven't touched on yet?
Look at how you're going to pay them, payroll, things like that. I have used Gusto in the past. Building a great team, that's everybody's biggest question, is how do you have a great team? How do you build a great team? Let them be involved from the beginning. Let them, let them in on meetings, value their input, ask them for ideas on projects that you're working on. Let them create their dream job, and see if you can create it for them within your company. We sat down one winter evening about this time, and one of them had a Skype in or whatever. I think we just did it on a phone call because she was snowed in on the other side of the mountains. But we sat down and talked about what's your dream in 5 years. According to them, I had an office that had a babysitting room and something else, an exercise room. So I had this huge office with, they could bring their kids in and all this stuff. And I look at them and I'm like, you're crazy. And we just laughed about it. But I'm like, you know what? Write it down, put it down there, because it could happen. I let them dream big. They can dream bigger for your company than you can. And they see the bigger picture sometimes, and let that happen. Let them do that, because then that hopefully reflects back to you that you're doing, you can then dream big and say, yeah, we can dominate the world, but yes, I have a great team, and with this great team, we can do great things. So when you are growing your team and looking to all of that, let them in. Don't let them just be employees. Let them into your company and let them see you. They never saw the financials, but they knew when things were good and they knew when things were not so good. And I'm like, okay, ladies, we've got to hustle. Let's go out there and find some business. And we all did.
And because you let them into your business and they felt invested, they were there for you, I'm sure.
Yes.
They hustled.
Yes.
That's so great.
It goes back to another topic I talk about is, I'm brand ambassadors. They're not employees. They become your ambassadors. I never called them that, but they're going to sing your business from the rooftop, and they're going to be fully invested in what you are doing because you're fully invested in them.
That's right. That's right. Jen, this was such a good conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I took tons of notes and I wrote down, I love what you said here just now, is when you're growing your team, let them in. I love that. I'm not going to forget that. That's going to be your quotable.
Oh, thank you. It's true.
Where can we find you online? I know people are going to want to get in touch with you. Where can they find you?
So they can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Jen Taylor Consulting for both of them. If they want to see, I will tell you, I will be totally transparent. My Tailored Events Facebook page and Instagram page aren't totally up to date. But if they want to see that, it's just Tailored Events. So, but Jen Taylor Consulting, if you want to come and chat and see how I can help your business, I would love it.
Perfect. I'm going to put all of that in the show notes, you guys. So feel free just to kind of swipe up or scroll up in whatever app you're using, and you can get a hold of Jen. Jen, thank you again. I sincerely appreciate this. This is wonderful.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.